LIFT meeting is Thursday, July 11th, at 6:32 p.m. First will be the roll call.
Chair Seiler,
Here.
Vice Chair Christensen. Here. Board Member Breezak. Here. Board Member Henderson.
Here.
Board Member Hopping.
Here.
Board Member Orino.
Here.
And Board Member Rychecki.
Here. Thank you. Also like to welcome Wendy and Tiffany for joining us this evening, and those who are joining us in person or online. Next, we have the agenda. Is there any additions to the agenda? Okay. Next is the review and approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from June 24th regular meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any comments?
Go ahead.
I was just going to point out that it says that Board Member Henderson abstained from that. We had 5 ayes and one absent. So, number one, people are not allowed to abstain under Littleton policy, but he arrived after that vote, so it should be 2 absent and 1 aye.
I'll fix it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, to approve the minutes as amended to show that Board Member Henderson was absent at the time of the vote for the approval of the minutes of May 9th. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There are no announcements. Now is the time for public appearances. Those who are in attendance would like to come forward and have any comments. Again, please state your name for the record at the beginning of your comments and limit them to 3 minutes.
Good evening, LIFT. My name is Linda Knufinke, and I live in the 4th District. As I mentioned in previous meetings, the Columbine Square Urban Renewal Plan itself guides any and all of your actions. Your responsibility is to implement the plan as approved by council. By law, you cannot add properties or change any properties or do anything other than what is contemplated by the Urban Renewal Plan. For example, if you want to do streetscapes, it must be on the properties listed in the appendix of your Urban Renewal Plan. So if you don't mind, there you go. This is specifically what the Urban Renewal Plan describes. It describes 12 activities you can do in the urban renewal area. Here, and you can see all of these 12 activities. And you can follow along by looking at Section 6 of your plan, and many of these activities are state legal requirements as defined in the Urban Renewal Law. I encourage you to consider these items to look for urban renewal opportunities. To highlight just a few, Section 6-1 says complete public improvements and facilities. Section 6-3 says promote development and redevelopment. 6-10 says enter into development agreements, and 6-11 says enter into cooperation agreements. Of course, you need experienced attorneys to figure out what all this means. On another note, LIFT can purchase the Columbine Square property outright or use eminent domain. You can use eminent domain because your urban renewal plan says you can. If the urban renewal plan is modified, you will no longer be able to use eminent domain without the express consent of the property owners based on what the voters approved. Again, if you use eminent domain or purchase the property outright, you'll need experienced attorneys and an executive director to guide you through the extensive legal requirements. Thank you, and I encourage you to use Section 6 as a guideline for your discussions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, close the period for public comments. Financial report. Ms. Wooten has joined us this evening to review the last quarter reports, so I will turn it over to her.
Good evening, Board. The last presentation I gave was financial information through March 31st of 2019. So if it's okay with you, I'd just like to highlight any changes that have occurred since March 31st. Just an overview is and I believe I mentioned this previously, you did refund all of the remaining $26,309 to the taxing entities. So that did occur in April. And the other revenues that were received is you did receive some property tax revenues based on the timing of payments from entities in that area, and that was $497. And you also accrued interest over the last 3 months of $1,804.42. So those are the transactions that have occurred since March. And just as a reference, between the operating account and the Colo Trust account, there is $322,599.06. And then I'd also like to add that the city did issue a check for the sales tax increment for the Columbine Square area in the amount of $102,957. So in your packet, you do have the April, May, and June information, detailed information related to those months. So if you have any additional questions or any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Business reports, we don't have any. This point, unfinished business, Carol asked to have some sort of discussion regarding Columbine Square Urban Renewal Plan, so I will turn it over to her at this time.
Well, I just thought it was important that we all are familiar with what it is that we can and can't do, and actually Linda's presentation kind of highlighted, but I went through the plan, and I think as a group, maybe it might be more of a study session topic for us to be able to outline and come to some baseline for what we can do and what we can't do.
I'm going to need more time, unfortunately, to read it because I haven't had a chance to re-review it. So, but I'm happy to listen to comments, truly.
Well, I'm not sure that it should be just me discussing the plan. I think it's something that the board ought to be familiar with. The plan calls out the citywide comprehensive plan is one of our guiding documents, and the city's economic development plan. And those are two documents we've never discussed, but yet that's what's called out.
Carol, what's the official date of the Columbine Square Urban Renewal Plan?
What is the official state?
Date.
Date.
Started the-
Oh, it was amended, Jack, January of 2015.
What's the exact date?
And I can't tell you. The document just says January 15. We could go back and look at the action that council took to find out what day it was actually approved. But I believe the January 2015 date would be the date that this body approved the document, then it went to council for approval. So it probably wasn't approved by council till February or early March.
Would that be the date that council approved it, or would it be the date we approved it?
I would imagine it's the date that the council approved it that's most important.
Well, I'm splitting hairs right now, but the reason I bring that up is you got 25 years from the date of the approval of the plan. And knowing the destruction of compound interest, shall we say, we only have approximately 20 and a half years by my count to amortize anything we want to do. So I'm just looking at some of the limitations we might have on issuing debt.
More specifically to the topic that you have brought up, the original plan was approved in December of 2014, and that would be when the clock starts.
Or is it the amendment? Because you've confused me now, I'm sorry.
There's the original plan and the amended plan. And the original plan was approved in December of 2014, and that's when the tax increment financing clock started.
So if I could bring this discussion back around to what's relevant for today. What is relevant for today is City Council has charged us to come up with a plan on what we're going to do in this urban renewal area and come back to them in October. We have 3 months to develop that plan. And when I met individually with most of the board members, everyone seemed to be on board with, one, exploring, is there an appetite with either the property owners or the city to partner with the LIFT board to do something in this area? I think that's what we need to do before we start having these further delay tactics on whether or not we can do it. If there is an interest, if somebody comes in, one of the property owners comes in and says, I want to deal with this. If Chang comes in here and says, I want to finance a rec center, let's just throw that out there. And we decide we want to do this, but before we go that, we would probably consult with legal advice to say, can we do that within the urban renewal plan? And we'd get a yes or no answer. Having that discussion now when we do not even know what we want to do or what we propose to do, I think is coming at this backwards. And I think what we need to focus on is engaging with the city and with the property owners and seeing what they want to do. Because if the city and the property owners do not want to partner with us, or there are no projects that we can undertake, then we will go back to the city in October and say, we tried, no one wants to do anything, what do you want us to do, City Council? And then City Council can decide where we go from there. Our immediate charge today is to figure out, is there something we can do? And then figure out how we can do it within the urban renewal as outlined. I think that's what we have to do. We've been talking about things for 3 years and getting into the weeds of stuff. We have to start trying to come up with something concrete. And that is what I have pledged to City Council that I was going to do, pledged to you that I was going to do, and that's what we need to continue to do. Reading the urban renewal plan and arguing that is not going to get us anywhere.
I agree. I think that we need to come out of tonight with a way to get to a game plan to approach the next 3 months. That's our timetable. And we need to have, at the end of 3 months, something to take to council and with our own recommendation on it. So that's what we need to figure out, is how to get to that point, and we haven't done any of that yet. We've had some guest speakers, and that's been really informative. I think, the public testimony tonight had some points in it, and that can be considered, but we should all be familiar with the plan anyway. That's just part of the job, but we need to focus on the one piece of what can we do. So can we entertain that? We have another meeting later this month. Can we put that on the agenda for that with specific things that we're going to do? I know you and the vice chair have had conversations with the city in some ways, but maybe we need to have a couple other people come up with a list of possibilities. We've thrown things around, but we don't have anything there to use as a launching platform for us to go forward. And we aren't going to have it unless we develop it.
Well, I respectfully disagree that looking at our finances is not getting us where we go, because in my mind, I'd like to know how much potential money we could raise, because right now we have $350,000, of which some of it is due back to the city if they want it. It's not very much money to do anything. You want to do a streetscape somewhere, you're going to take more money than that. But if we get $100,000 in tax increment financing, and the city wants us to go forward with a streetscape, we can raise $1 million. Mm-hmm. That's why my intrigue in it. It's not to delay anything. It's just to kind of put an envelope around, okay, you can think up to this level of money for the next 20 years, because I'm not assuming we're going to get any additional tax increment over and above what we're getting. The idea would be that we have a project and we get new retail and we get more tax increment. We're not going to get that. So we're kind of limited in what we're doing. If you know what your cap is, then you can start, you're not going to be thinking things that probably aren't as possible as others.
When I don't think anybody has said that looking at the money is a foolish exercise. We have to work within that parameter. So that's one of the things we have to consider. We need to consider finance, achievability, and desire. So we need to get it figured out. And I don't know if we'd break up into 3 committees and report back, or how we want to do this, but we need to break this down into subsegments and get the work done, and certainly finance is one of them. And that's great that you volunteered. So the right checky volunteer mechanism. But no, you're well equipped in that area, so that'd be great. And we need to have more than the monthly appearances here, where we just go to chapter 94, the attorney marathon. So does anybody have any suggestions? Or I would suggest that we come into our meeting, the next meeting, with that as an agenda item.
My plan for the next, go ahead, go.
My question was going to be, so what are the next steps that we've contemplated? I know we've talked about gathering citizen input. We're talking about finance. I don't know if there's more input we need from the city right now. Is there a 4th thing that we've discussed that we need to be assigning or volunteering for?
Well, I think one of the things that we had a discussion a few months ago when we started talking about looking at, let's say, a matching grant program for the property owners. The sense I got from the board at the time was they wanted us to partner with the city because the partner had done a lot of this, the city had done a lot of this outreach through the Bellevue Corridor Plan and the Littleton Envision Plan project. So I think they have a lot of expertise in this area they can lend to us and help us. How do we engage the property owners and do these things? So that's why we started having a discussion with them regarding that, and with Public Works to see, okay, what do you have in this area that's a need that we can address? Money is a limiting factor. I mean, if Chang or some other developer came in and said, we want to build a $5 million rec center and we want you to finance it, we know that's a non-starter. But I think there may be potential for some other things in that area. We just don't know what they are. Because again, we don't know what the struggles are for the property owners. And the city has yet to come forward and say, we have this infrastructure project, we would like you to partner with us 25% on that, or 50%, or whatever the number is, or we have that discussion, what is the right number? What is it we can finance? Because we do have limited finances. And I didn't think it would be I never believed it would be something we would solely take on. That it would be a partnership with the city, that they would have maybe funds that they could put into it, and then we could accomplish both our goals.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was really intrigued last meeting. I'm not saying I'm completely sold on it, but I was really intrigued by Jack's concept, which was seek to lease the property and demolish it and use it for something that maybe would be a placeholder, just maybe a greenfield park with some improvements, but not many, but basically to seek to lease it ourselves and control it until such time as the lease runs out and the owner wants to do something with it. I thought that was probably something that might work within the budget we're talking about. Do we want to find out more about how such a thing might be possible? And I'm not trying to sell you on this. If you don't think
for some reason, when it came up, I thought it was a good idea, but then I had this pause. Mm-hmm. And I'm not 100% sure that we can do that is that an action we can take within the urban renewal?
I think, the reason I think it might be is because the plan allows for the demolishing of buildings.
Correct. And it could be
the purchasing of property.
And it could very well be. And my plan was to run it by city, our current, well, there's a transition. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but with legal to say, here's a thought, can we do it? Anything that we come out with, I want to run it by legal to say, as you understand
Yeah.
what we want to do, can we do this?
And the
I-
city attorney can probably, well, whoever is acting as city attorney, but my
Yes.
point is, our own attorney wouldn't probably have to
No.
weigh in on that because there's no conflict.
Correct. I mean, I just had, over the past week, I had family in town and the
No, no, no,
holiday. I
that's
just hadn't had time to make that phone call, and then there was the announcement of the new city attorney. I'm not sure when they're coming on board.
The 23rd of July, or 22nd of July, he'll be here.
Okay. So I just haven't had time to make that phone call to say, here's what we're thinking, can we do this?
Yeah.
Just to do our due diligence to make sure we're not, going down a path that's a problem.
So we should hold that one, I imagine, as one possibility.
Exactly. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's a way for us to do something, make an improvement, and make it a immediate impact in the area. And it may not take a whole lot of funds to do that. And it may be something that they may be very open and receptive to. Want to reach out to them also and see are they receptive to it. But that is one thing. I just don't think we just should hang our hat on that
No, I
one.
agree completely. Yeah, and I've always been one of the big proponents of the information gathering tour. Absolutely, yeah.
I think
Yes, Tiffany?
I'm sorry, I'd just like to make a comment related to the URA area. I was asked to pass along some information from the city manager's office, and the city did contract with EPS to begin business and resident surveys, and they will begin that next week with the intention that it will be completed by the end of the month.
Okay.
And the cost for that is $9,100. And I believe there's an ask that you consider paying for half of that, the LIFT organization.
Do we have do we know what all will be, this is a survey that's going out to residents of the, do we know what's going to be asked about?
I'm sorry, I don't know the details of that.
It's okay.
But I do know, I believe that information was emailed earlier today to Kevin with the scope and the agreement related to that.
Correct. I saw it once I got home this evening from work.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to look at it. I did see that, and it was too late to put it on the agenda. So I didn't add it to tonight's agenda because it does something, I do want to be able to entertain a motion for us to partner with the city to pay for that. But I still have to read through it all. I probably have a few questions for Mark, but I did receive it, and it's going to be an agenda item on our next meeting.
Okay.
Has that been contracted by the city?
Yes, it has.
So they've contracted for something and now they're asking us to pay for half of it.
We've contracted with EPS.
Okay.
So I assume the
Is there
content,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I assume the content of the survey is already decided, or you probably, okay.
I apologize.
Going out
That's
next
okay.
week, yeah, I think it sounds like it has. Like I said, I just saw it this evening when I got home, and I haven't really opened up the project. It just was his email, and I was on my phone, so I just looked at his email.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to discuss it at this meeting.
No, we're not going to, that's why I didn't put it on the agenda, because
Yeah.
I do want to make it as an option.
So is this theoretically being done on our behalf?
I think that maybe, I haven't talked to Mark. First, I think as part of our discussions that Cindy and I have had with Mark and other city staff, that we want to engage to find out what we want to do in that area. So it may have come out of that. I'm not sure. I have not, like I said, I just have his email. and that
Okay,
was-
so we obviously
more to
have more to
come.
learn.
There will be more to come.
Yeah, okay.
No answer. It's, we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
So,
May I?
yes, Carol.
I, first of all, want to address a comment that was made by our chair, that this was a delay tactic. It is not a delay tactic. I see it as a critical step because it outlines things that we have to do because we need to implement the plan the way it was written. And the last thing we want to do is go down the road and think we've got something and then find out it doesn't fit in the plan. And when I read the plan again, it actually, it makes your brain start thinking about the reality of our situation now and how it is that we might be able to do something with the little funds that we have that might fit within the confines of the plan. So please don't assume you know my motivation. It has nothing to do with delay. I like to start at the beginning instead of in the middle of something, and I see it important for us to understand what the ground rules are before we start entering into any kind of heavy discussion about what we might do. The other thing that we need to, I'm not sure how it's going to affect things, but the Columbine Square Chang property is for sale. So I'm not sure what that does to our picture, but it may end up opening up a door to doing the kind of thing that you're talking about.
But we still have a deadline to go to city council with a plan, and I don't know, you know, your proposal, Carol, to look at the plan. We certainly need to operate within the plan. That should not take a prolonged amount of time to do, and we can be guided by unbiased attorneys in that process. So I think we're good. You know, I don't have any problem with us operating outside the plan. That would never be any of our intent. So we'll make sure that happens.
Any other comment on this? Okay. Moving forward, this is just a FYI, because we've already have agreement to move forward with this, to execute an agreement with Murray, Dahlberry, and Ronald law firm. But I will turn it over to Joseph at this point to review what clarifications that he's been able to obtain since our last meeting, and any other changes to the agreement, just so we know what it is.
Okay. In addition to including the word member after board, there were two substantive changes. The first is on page 2, section 6. We discussed potential fees dispute and how to handle those. Member Bresak pointed out that going straight to district court seemed like an expensive route, so they agreed to take fees disputes to the Colorado Bar Association Fee Arbitration Committee, and then if there are any other disputes, then we would go to district court. But it's highly unlikely that it would come to that, and Mr. Murray pointed out that he's never had a fee dispute that went to arbitration or a courtroom.
Great.
And then page 3, schedule of costs, travel, we added paragraph 8. Time is charged at an agreed upon hourly rate, at the agreed upon hourly rate of travel to and from meetings when meeting attendance is requested by the client, that's us. So you're aware his office is in Lakewood, and he says it was about a 20 to 30 minute drive, and his home is closer than his office to here. So he estimates any time he attends the meeting, depending on traffic, it would be an additional 40 minutes to an hour commitment.
Okay, thank you, and Joseph and Jason, thank you for your work on this. The next item.
Does that mean it's finally done?
We're done, yes.
Very much.
Comments and reports. Board Member Hopping.
I'd just like to encourage us to concentrate on, at the next meeting, with developing a game plan, to have that as an agenda item. And that means committee setup, goals, and people should come armed and ready to go on that. And if maybe we need to, maybe we could get some assistance from city staff about the best way to put that together. I don't know the best game plan to do that, but I'd be willing to participate in the process. But we need to come in here ready to work and not just be ethereal. I have ethereal for breakfast, but not here.
Board Member Henderson.
I'm actually excited about hearing more about both the survey that's going out and also consulting with the attorney when we get a chance about what right now I keep thinking of as the Jack Project, because and especially because looking again at the plan, we have the ability to purchase land inside the area. We have the ability to demolish. Those are things that are contemplated by the fund, so it's definitely something that's sort of high on my list of possibles, if it were to work. And especially Carol pointing out that the place might be for sale anyway. So I just want to hear more about that.
Okay. Board Member Bresak, nothing? Board Member Areno?
Nothing.
Oh. Board Member Christensen?
I'm fine.
Board Member.
I just have a question
Sure.
for our next meeting, and we're talking about coming up with some ideas and what we could do. I mean, we can all look at the plan and maybe come up with some ideas so that we have a starting point. we're all coming in with what we think could happen under that plan, and that would get us started pretty quickly so that we can discuss it at the next meeting. And the next meeting's a study session, so we could
Correct.
discuss it, okay? Because, I mean, I have some ideas already, and I think everybody else does. And so if you just bring your ideas and we start really looking at them and coming up with a plan right away, that would be to me, the best way to go.
I agree. Jack?
I hope as you develop the agenda, we get some brainstorming time, because I've got more ideas than just the one. And to me, when you start developing plans, I've always been in a situation where you just sit down, and no matter what anybody comes up with, it doesn't matter. Just write it down and see if anything has to be developed. And we really, to the best of my knowledge, or I haven't felt like we've done that. So I would really appeal to you when you write the agenda that we just do that. And it's non-attributable. It's not, nobody says, well, you did that and you can't do that. No, you just put it down, see what happens.
Thank you to both your comments and Cindy's comments. What I would like everyone to do is, as for homework, is to read through the urban renewal plan and come to the meeting with things that they feel after reading it that we can do, not can't. I want to get away from negativity. I want to get to positive. I want to think positively that we can do something and we can move this area forward.
I just have one more suggestion.
Yes.
And that is maybe a review also of the Bellevue Corridor Plan.
Yes.
I know we've looked at it and we've had presentations on it, but it might be good to look at so that whatever we are looking at maybe comes within the context of what that plan says also.
Yes.
I spoke out pretty strongly in favor of that study session. I just looked at my calendar. I'm out of town, family wedding back on the East Coast then.
What date is the study session?
It's the 25th of July, correct?
Yes.
So what I'll commit to doing some work of this ahead of time. Maybe I'll submit it in writing for consideration. Sorry.
2 meetings ago, we asked Randy Young if he would bring a list of infrastructure projects for that area that are on the books that the city is postponing because they can't afford to do them. Do you know if that work's been done?
We had that discussion with Mark the last time we met with him a month ago. I have to touch base with him to see where we are, because there were some specific plans that Mark knew of that he was going to go back and check to see if that had been done already in that area.
Okay. It'd be good to have. for the
Right,
next
because there's like, the city's been undertaking utility burial, and he wasn't sure if that had been done in that area, and that was one key thing that he thought that's something we could partner with and would fall within what we can do. Okay. All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned at 7:05.